Mike.
Yeah, might be able to help answer this. One of my previous lives, I was area manager major stations in the north, which is obviously multiple user sites. Two issues. One is that I think for train dispatch and direct customer service, the train operating companies at the time, and I'm sure they still do, wanted to interact with their own passengers. The problems at places like Birmingham New Street particularly was interchange, where you'd have two completely different sets of TOC staff deciding whether or not to hold connections and deciding, they were going to maintain their PPM record, even though it meant passengers might well suffer from the effect on someone else's delays. The second thing was, one of the things we tried to do in those days, for better or worse, partly funded, as Chris will recall, by retail income, was to improve the lot of the passenger and station user, because one of the main increases in income that we managed to achieve in major stations was from incidental use, places like Liverpool Street, particularly with people coming off the street from work, maybe to have their lunch there or to pick up something on the way home or whatever. And there's a difficult balance, but when we found we wanted to, as an organisation, improve standards, improve facilities at locations, I actually had TOC MDs sitting in front of me saying, I don't want you to do that. I don't care if you just have a bus stop and a waiting shelter. I am not paying for that. And I think the problem is we have diverse train operating companies with different priorities themselves for their passengers, and certainly the introduction of common standards would certainly help settle that debate. We couldn't solve it at the time because common standards like that could not be agreed between different train operators. So I think until you overcome that issue, which is somewhere along the line a funding issue as well, you won't resolve the problem overall at shared sites.
Richard?
Yeah, I think there's an issue about connections and shared station arrangements with something like Overground, which is a relatively new animal and is trying to produce what they say a tube-style service on the conventional railway, something which I've been advocating for a long time and many others too. Connections, I think, is a crucial issue, because if you know that you've only got to wait a quarter of an hour, well, if you miss that particular connection, you've got 12 minutes to wait. Tough, but you know it's only 12 minutes. There is nothing worse, though, than me arriving at Gospelnote and thinking, damn it, this train's 2 minutes late and I've missed my connection. I've got 28 minutes to wait for my train. That is irritating. That is something which in an urban environment, not just in London but also our regional cities, we've got to look at how the network links together and ensure, and it's like the business over the bus stop and on Chris's presentation, the Dutch station, to make sure that there are adequate basic facilities for when you do have to change, wait 10 or 12 minutes. You're in a decent shelter which is weatherproof, reasonably comfortable, so that you feel reassured and the sign is up there saying next train 10 minutes, 8 minutes, 6 minutes and so on. If that is provided, then people will get used to changing, because those of you who are London based will know, oh yes, you can change on the tube. Oh, go south of the river. That starts getting complex. We've got to make the connection and the changing much, much easier. And it's something which they're going to have to find the money to do. And I think, again, Chris's paper alludes to many of those issues.
In Switzerland, of course, they think much less about interchange, because they do time the trains in such a way that it's just a smooth interchange, and you don't kind of worry about kind of getting delayed, because it's always done properly. Trains not stopping. Ashwin, do you know? I mean, it's what can one say about that except it's
I mean,
a
that
scam.
yeah, exactly. And I can't remember offhand, and I'm sure somebody in the audience would know exactly what the implication is for PPM. It's a PPM fail. So they do actually meet the penalty. They do have to face the penalty of a late train. But I guess the point is that they're trying to get the units there quicker so they can start the journey back on time. But that sort of it just drives home the point why punctuality and getting punctuality right all the way through the journey is absolutely critical to passengers, and that's just not acceptable.
Mike, a legacy organisation to do schemes like the ODA?
Yeah, it sounds very nice, and to some extent it already happens. If I break it down into three issues: funding, law, and then motivation. At the moment, outside the Olympics funding, which of course was specially set up as part of our bid, there is Railway Development Fund funding, which Network Rail can use at its discretion, and of course there's EU or regional development funding, and a number of other funds of the sort of pieces that regional, county and district authorities can use. So you'd say, well, what's the problem? I guess the problem partly is the Olympics Act. What made what we're doing special is that the Olympics Act gave us seriously draconian powers. It made us our own planning authority in a large area of the borough of Newham, and it also gave us compulsory purchase powers, which is, well, I think unique outside of government agencies. That meant we could not do what we like, because we obviously have to follow the law in terms of compensation, notice, and all necessary planning conditions have to be fulfilled. But it did mean that we could do things much, much faster than you would do normally, and we could do them probably more efficiently as a unitary organisation. But I guess the main driver, really, on which any other scheme would stumble, is that we can't be late. So the motivation to find a way of doing something has always been there and is still there. You know, if I'm late, I will be sacked, and that's it. Same with everyone else in the ODA. So unless you have as strong a motivation as that for any group of people working together to deliver the same sort of unified benefit in a district or regional sense, then probably you're not going to see the same sort of effect anywhere else, other than from a major third-party developer, who are probably the only other type of organisation severely incentivised, in their case by profit or lack of it if they're late. And to that extent, our partner in Westfield, an Australian shopping centre developer who was going to develop Stratford in their own sweet time and has accelerated their work to match that of the Olympics, and clearly that is a major driver of the regeneration of the Stratford area and part of the Olympics background bid, if you like. So in answer to your question, yes, I'm sure it's possible, but you'd have to create a similar set of circumstances, I think, to the one we've created for the Olympics, in order for anything else to succeed in the sort of timescales we would like.
Okay, back to another three questions. Right, I'll have a go at that. Chap in the blue there. Oh, sorry. Yeah, down here. Yes, sorry.
Dominic Duncan, Essex County Council again. My question really is in part for the ODA, Mike's story, but also for other comment as well. You mentioned in your presentation one train every 15 seconds, was it at one point you expected? Roughly about that in Stratford. But
not on the same line.
No, of course.
Well, hopefully not.
No, that's only when playing trains. However, I know for a fact that when I'm relying on pre-booked assistance, I can actually knock a delay in of about 2 minutes. I've actually caused cancellation of trains at Clapham Junction, stretching into hours, because I've been left on the train. How does the ODA envisage managing that disabled assistance for those who require it quickly and with dignity? But also, how can we take that across the country for the next 2 years, for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and how can we improve the country further?